Hey everybody, welcome to the first ever episode of Level Up with Laksh, where I'm your host Laksh Chopra. For those of you who don't know me, I've been creating content on social media for the past year about topics such as business, motivation, and life advice, and now I felt like a podcast is the next natural step. Usually what I have planned for my podcast is I'm just going to jump right into the topic. However, since this is the very first episode, I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction to the podcast, give a little bit of expectations of what I can expect from the podcast and what you can expect. So number one, I'm mostly going to give lessons that I've learned from personal anecdotes and personal incidences that have happened in my life. But I'm also going to share some aspects that I've learned from other people, not only through podcasts, but just life in general. Also, I'm going to try to have as minimal cuts as possible in this podcast. Usually with podcasts, people end up listening to it, so cuts aren't that big of an issue. But I also want to try to practice speaking authentically. I want to try to practice speaking as if this were a conversation, and that's how I would like you to listen to this as well. Don't think of this as just some dude that's blasting in your speaker. Think of this as kind of a one-sided conversation where we exchange thoughts. Feel free to pause anytime and discuss some of the things that I've said. That's usually what I do when I listen to podcasts. And now let's officially dive into the first ever podcast episode. So this podcast episode is going to be about some of my biggest regrets from high school. And just some quick statistics before we begin. Well, I graduated high school with a 94 average. I was able to get my entire first year of university funded through scholarships. That's about $10,000 in scholarships. However, besides these statistics, these positives that I've done throughout my career, I also have things that I've regretted, things that I could have improved upon, and things that I could have done differently. My only hope is that for people who are watching this podcast or listening to this podcast is for you guys to be able to take away some of the lessons that I've learned through some of the mistakes that I've made, and for you to not repeat the same mistakes that I made. So starting off with number one, getting poor sleep. Look, we've all heard this before. It's a cliche. Your body is a temple, and it is the foundation of everything you do. If you take care of your body will take care of you throughout the rest of your life. I've seen this quote circling around where if you think that you are able to function adequately to levels of your normal self, if not greater, without getting 8 hours of sleep, let's say 6 hours of sleep, for example, then you are lying to yourself. There was a quote on a podcast you could probably search up where the guy said, the amount of people in this world who can function on less than 8 hours of sleep to the maximum capability rounded to a whole figure is zero. There are literally very, very few people on this world who can function with very little sleep. And if you think you are part of that small percentage, you are lying to yourself. Now, of course, there are some genetic mutations that allow people to function with very little sleep. However, this affects a very, very insignificant population. This is a very small number. And if you think you are part of that number, you are being delusional, you are lying to yourself, you are giving yourself an excuse to not prioritize your sleep. And another thing with this regret of my sleep is that I didn't let my grades suffer. I still got great grades. I ended up achieving honors with distinction all 3 years of my high school, which is basically if you have a 90 plus average. However, because I didn't let my grades sacrifice, I sacrificed tons of other things. I sacrificed mental well-being. I sacrificed extracurricular activities that I could have done. And I sacrificed my performance in pretty much everything. I was grumpy. I was groggy. Some of my relationships fell apart because of that. And not to mention energy drinks, where a lot of people who are teenagers who don't get as much sleep, they resort to substances like energy drinks or even pre-workout. Now, not only are these terrible for you, but they are a short-term solution and they can actually further ruin your sleep down the road. In grade 10, I didn't get as much sleep, but I submitted every assignment on time. In grade 11, same thing. I pulled multiple all-nighters. I think in total I had pulled about 10 all-nighters in all of grade 11, and I still got every assignment done on time. But then in grade 12, I got poor sleep again, but I handed some assignments in late. Altogether, I think it's safe to say that assuming I had gotten proper sleep all 3 years, an average of 7.5 to 8 hours every single night, I would be way better off. My health would be way better off. My sleep would be better off, and I would just be a more energetic, happier individual. Number two, and I really resonate with this regret, is not being social. So I'll give a quick of a backstory. In junior high, grade 7, I was really social. I might have even considered myself to be one of the popular kids. However, when grade 8 rolled around, and when I say however, I'm fully acknowledging that I'm using this as an excuse. I just want to get that out there, that I'm using an excuse. But however, in grade 8, COVID happened, and the first half of grade 8 was normal. But then when COVID happened, everything went online. School was completely online. And at first I was really happy. This would mean that now I have a lot of free time to just fool around. And eventually it got to the point where when I was registering for my grade 9 year, I had the option of choosing to attend school in person or online for all of grade 9. So something about me is that I've always grown up being a chubby kid, and I was really self-conscious about this. Even in junior high, I didn't really show it too much, but I was a bit self-conscious about this. And over COVID, the 5-6 months that I had online in grade 8, I didn't really do enough to get myself in good physical condition. So I was self-conscious about this, and I chose to do all of grade 9 online. I was scared about what people might say when they came to find out that I was still the same chubby 8th grader who had gone home for COVID, and now when I return, I'm still chubby. So anyways, I did all of grade 9 online, and when grade 10 rolled around, when I started high school, it's as if I just forgot how to talk to people. I was really awkward around people. I was shy. I would try to purposely avoid conversations. And another thing is all of my friends were guys because I was just too shy to talk to any girls, even for just being friends. I was really good at school. I had great grades, but I lacked a whole lot in my social life. I was purposely trying to get out of conversations, just shy away from people, overall try to isolate myself because it was scary to talk to people. However, I did get better at this throughout the years. In my grade 10, I was really antisocial. Grade 11, not so much. In grade 12, not too much compared to my grade 10 self. However, I was definitely nowhere where I am now. Now, I'm able to have a conversation with anybody and like straight up just say hi to someone across the street and sustain a good conversation for a couple minutes. When university started, I received a really good piece of advice where if you were someone who weren't that social in high school, then just fake being social in university. A lot of times what happens is that when people start high school and they're antisocial, it happens. A lot of the reason is because you're just introduced to an environment of like over 2,000 kids in my case. Going from completely online to an environment of over 2,000 kids in person, it was a bit daunting. It was a bit overwhelming. But now in university, that 2,000 kids turns into 40,000 kids. Don't let the same mistake happen twice. Even if you have to fake being social, just go ahead and do it because sooner or later, it will become your new normal. Now, being social is normal for me. Having conversations with strangers is normal for me. Trying to connect with them, trying to build relationships with strangers is my new normal. And a funny story that actually happened is a couple of weeks ago, I was just having a walk with one of my friends, and he's like, man, you are really one of my popular friends. Every time I talk to you, or even if we go on a walk, you end up saying hi to like 20 other people. And my mind just explodes because am I the popular guy again? This is a compliment that I never expected to get ever again. And all of a sudden, because I faked being social in university, it became my new normal. Now I love talking to people. Now I love connecting to people, and I have no problem doing it. And nobody ever suspects that I was ever antisocial to begin with. So if you're in high school and you consider yourself to be antisocial, just know that you're not alone. There's tons of other antisocial people out there. Seek refuge within each other. Connect with each other. You guys are going through the same challenges. You guys can get out of this challenge together. And just know that things will get better if you're willing to put in that effort. Now, I want to talk about some of the benefits of being social. I missed out on a lot in high school because I wasn't social. So a big thing is, if you think you can be a lone wolf, if you think you can be really successful without ever talking to anybody, without ever making any good, genuine, meaningful connections and relationships with people, if you think you can achieve it all on your own, then I want you to realize that every single successful person that you admire will always credit their success to everybody around them, not just themselves. If you think you can be a lone wolf, you are lying to yourself and you are living in a world of delusion. Being social is step number 1 to not being a lone wolf. Connecting with others and building meaningful relationships is step 2 of not being a lone wolf. Another thing is that you will never ever regret a 5-minute interaction with a stranger. For example, you're in line waiting for a coffee at a coffee store, and you can very easily just go on your phone, scroll through Instagram for a couple minutes. Chances are the people in front of you and behind you are doing the same thing because the introduction of technology has just made people really antisocial. However, if you take that extra step, if you make that extra effort, it will be scary, it will be uncomfortable, you might want to throw up in your mouth a little bit, but if you take that extra effort to just have a 5-minute conversation with a stranger, even if it goes nowhere, I can guarantee that you will never regret it and you will never miss not having been on your phone. Another thing is that human beings are very, very social creatures. We can trace this back to evolutionary psychology. Back in the day, and I mean tens of thousands of years ago, when humans used to hunt for their food and we used to live in tribes and whatnot, not being social meant that you weren't part of that group, which means that when the tribe hunted, you weren't given food. or didn't even invite you out to go hunt, which means you would go to sleep hungry. Eventually, you would die. So back in the day, not being social meant you would literally die, which is that same evolutionary psychologist that's traced back to us today. That's why being social is just so important. One more thing is that I want to talk about this theory of quantum conversations. You are 5 random conversations away from completely changing your life for the better. This can be random conversation at a coffee shop. This can be random conversation with a stranger across the street. This can be just reaching out to someone on social media even. But each one of these conversations has the potential to potentially change your life forever. A quick example is that I just randomly struck up a conversation with a guy, and it turns out he has very much the same values and ideals as me. He wants to make the world a better place, and he seems to be really well connected, which is a great connection for me to have, not only for just selfish and business reasons, but also for personal reasons. I want to connect with people who are better than I am, so that way I can grow as well, and so I can learn how to provide value to other people as well. Right. So number 2, not being social, huge regret. If you can avoid that, I would highly recommend it. And then number 3, my third biggest regret is not having a diverse friend group. Ideas are the foundation of what you're made up of. There's a quote that I really like, is that families are people making machines. They're personality making machines. And this doesn't just apply to families. This applies to pretty much everyone you interact with. So what this means is that the greater the diversity in your friend group, the greater the diversity in your ideas, the more well-rounded of a person you are. And who doesn't want to be well-rounded? And another thing is, when I say a diverse friend group, I am not talking about just having an ethnic or a racial diversity in your friend group. That was not a problem for me in high school. I was part of 2 major friend groups in high school, both of them very diverse racially and ethnically. That's not the problem I'm discussing. I'm talking about having women in your friend group. Now, according to the statistics on Instagram, most of my followers are males aged 18 to 24. And I understand that, especially for this gender and for this age group, girls can be an awkward topic, and I fully acknowledge that. However, one of my biggest regrets is that I did not have enough friends in high school who were girls. And for the first 2 years of high school, I pretty much had 0 friends who were girls. Towards the end, I did work on this weakness of mine. I did have a couple friends who were girls, but I could literally count them on one hand. And when I mean having friends who are girls, I'm talking about strictly non-romantic purposes. People make up who you are as a person, and I'm sure if I had better diversity, then the version of me that would be more well-rounded in terms of having friends who were girls and guys would be a better version of my current self, who didn't have growing up as many friends who were girls as guys. And I want to go back to this topic of having friends who are girls for non-romantic purposes, just straight up friends who happen to be girls. There are people who you talk to, there are people who you share your problems with, there are people who you can just call friends. They just happen to be girls. And I think a large part of a problem in society, especially for young men who happen to be a large part of my audience, is that they end up making something called covert contracts. Now, this is an idea proposed by Dr. Robert Clubber, and what he says is that there's too many nice guys, and here I'll use air quotes, nice guys, where basically they expect to do something nice to someone, usually girls, and they expect something in return. That is a horrible, horrible way of thinking. You are a shitty person if you think that. You should be a nice guy just for the purpose of being a nice guy. And I think that's where a lot of men go wrong, especially in high school. This is also the age where they're just finishing up puberty, so it can get really awkward around girls. But just talk to them. Expect nothing when you're having a conversation with a girl. You're just trying to get to know them as a person, which is the way it should be. And another problem is that during high school, there was a huge rise in male role models that were part of the manosphere. They're also called the red pill community. Andrew Tate. Yeah, I was a bit hesitant to name his name, but I guess, I'll just do it. Where basically these men, they have a certain philosophy around girls, which is a very horrible philosophy. It's a very shitty mindset. And I'm very happy that towards the end of high school, I discovered better role models and better mentors who were able to fix my mindset and just make me a better person. So number 3, having a diverse friend group, having women in your friend group, they allow you to mature better. They will help you grow better. My 4th biggest regret in high school is not getting into the gym. High school is the best time to start working out. You are not too terribly busy that you can't afford a couple hours a week, right? All you really need to do is just 45 minutes 3 times a week, which isn't a big ask. Also, high school, since you don't have too much going on, this is a good time to practice building the habit of going to the gym on a daily basis so that way you can sustain this habit for the remainder of your life. Working out has so many benefits, right? Not just for your physical health. It doesn't just help you look better, but also for your mental health. It makes you more confident. Going back to mental health, it allows you to find a way to rechannel any negative energy, any stress in the form of just lifting a couple pounds here and there. Something about me is that I was always chubby as a kid. I mentioned this before, and I hated it. I hated every second of it. A simple solution would have been to just start working out. It would have made me more confident. It would have made me more secure about my body and everything. And unfortunately, I didn't prioritize that enough. I didn't realize the importance of it enough. And that's a big regret. A couple of months ago, I was at the point where the pain of staying the same exceeded the pain of changing. It literally hurt me more to be an obese kid than it would have hurt me to go to the gym here and there. So that's something that I worked on. And ever since September, I got another gym membership. I renewed that membership and I've been going consistently. I plan on going after this podcast is recorded. And I want to go in deep on this topic. Confidence is just so vastly boosted when you go to the gym. Even just, psychologically, when you take up more space as a man in a room due to being muscular, you just feel confident. You will feel as if people are respecting you more because people actually do. And going to the gym is a great place to practice commitment. It is a big ask to do something for a couple times a week, every single week for the rest of your life. When you go to the gym, when you start working out, you ideally plan on working out for pretty much till the day you die, right? It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's going to be a marathon over many, many decades. So it is a big commitment. And this is a great way to practice commitment. Another thing is I've heard this quote a lot where the more you put in, the more you get out. And I think going to the gym is the best place to visually, conceptually realize that. In the gym, if you eat healthy, if you exercise consistently, and you do these for a prolonged period of time, you will visibly look and feel better. There is no other place that can allow you to experience the reality of the more you put in, the more you get out, as good as the gym. So it's a great way to practice commitment, and it's a great way to realize the importance of putting in effort. Number 5, this one is a bit short. It's just procrastination. This one's kind of self-explanatory, but procrastinating is something that I've always done, just on assignments and homework and even just studying for tests. I have countless Sunday nights where I've just spent the whole night cramming, sometimes even pulled an all-nighter for the test that I had on Monday. And this is something that I got better at. There's not really a solution to it because you kind of just got to do the thing, right? Which leads me to this next part where I'm going to read to you a mini essay. It's a kind of a poem. Basically, it's just a list of things that aren't doing the thing. So let's go for it. Preparing to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Scheduling time to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Making a to-do list for the thing isn't doing the thing. Telling people you're going to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Messaging friends who may or may not be doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Writing a banger tweet about how you're going to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on yourself for not doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on other people who have done the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on the obstacles in the way of doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Fantasizing about all the adoration you'll receive once you have done the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading about how to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading about how other people did the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading this essay, or in this case, listening to me read this essay, isn't doing the thing. The only thing that is doing the thing is you doing the thing. Go and do the thing. That just really hit hard for me. That really just made it easy for me to get stuff done now. I'm actually going to get this framed and hung up on a wall across my room just so I can see this every day and just so I can be reminded to just go ahead and do the thing. So much of your life is spent fantasizing, but very little is spent through action. Action is the thing that will take you from here to here. Procrastination messes up your ability to do more, and you just end up making sacrifices in other areas, whether it's sleep, health, or just extracurriculars. The time that you waste by not doing the thing has to be recovered by not doing the thing in another area that you care about. Now, the 6th biggest regret about high school isn't actually my regret, but it's the regret that I see a lot of other people making. This is the mistake that I see a lot of other people making, and it's basically not picking the right college major. Following your passion is bad advice. You've probably grown up hearing your whole life, oh, just follow your passion, you'll be successful. No, it is horrible advice. My passion is solving Rubik's Cubes. I cannot make a career out of solving Rubik's Cubes. Instead of following your passion, pick something that you are naturally talented at, something that you have a natural inclination towards, and put in the tens of thousands of hours work required to become a master at that thing. For example, I have a natural inclination towards math. I really get numbers. I'm good at science and everything. I'm very good at analyzing things. So I picked accounting. Accounting isn't necessarily the most fun career, but it is the career that if I put in the tens of thousands of hours of work required to become great at it, I will be successful, even though it might not be my passion, right? And another quick example is don't pick something like Latin literature as your major just because you have a passion in it, because chances are it doesn't meet the following 5 questions. If you are in high school and are just applying to colleges or are just starting to pick out your college major, then ask yourself these 5 questions. Number 1, what job can you get with this degree? Number 2, how much do these jobs pay? Number 3, how hard is it for me to land these jobs? Everyone has different skills. Everyone has different levels of effort that they can put in. How much effort will it take you to land these jobs? Number 4, is this a job that I can do without being totally miserable? For example, in my case, a lot of people consider accounting to be a boring industry where you're just strapped at a desk for 8 hours a day. However, I'm someone who won't be totally miserable doing that because I plan on going down a managerial route eventually. Number 5, how much does it cost and how long will it take you to pay off debt if you do take on any debt? And question number 5 applies to instances where you're debating on going to a different school, maybe across the country. For example, if you're here in Alberta and you want to go to pre-med and you can pay about $55,000 here at an Alberta school, or you can pay $400,000 and go to America. Chances are one of those things will leave you in more crippling debt than the other. And I acknowledge the fact that it can be hard to have a perfect answer for all 5 of those questions. But statistically speaking, you are better off if you have a positive answer to as many of those 5 questions as you possibly can. Now, I don't mean to say that if you picked a major that is totally useless, and for those of you who are just listening and not watching, I used air quotes when I said useless. It doesn't mean that you're totally just cooked. If you are willing to put in the effort that you've never put in before, then yeah, it might be a good choice for you. But you need to realize that you might be not setting yourself up for as much success as possible by picking a major that can be useless. And again, I'm using air quotes because this is very subjective. So for example, some of my mentors who have mentored me in business activities and just people who I look up to graduated with degrees such as philosophy and English literature and went on to do great things in industries such as finance. It isn't over until it's over, but just beware that you have to put in the effort regardless. Don't pick a major that doesn't answer positively to those 5 questions and complain that, oh, university is a scam, the system is out to get me, the world doesn't want me to succeed. No, you just didn't do your due diligence of answering 5 questions that are just a Google away, and now you purposely set yourself up in a position to fail. Don't do that for yourself. Don't live life on hard mode. Live life on easy mode. And that's number 6. It's a regret that I personally don't have, but it's something that I see a lot of people making. And now I'm just going to give a quick recap on all of the 6 regrets that I listed. Number 1, getting poor sleep. Number 2, not being social. Number 3, not having a diverse friend group. Number 4, not getting into the gym. Number 5, procrastinating. And number 6, not doing enough research before picking a college major. If you made it this far into the podcast, you have my wholehearted gratitude. I really want to thank you for listening to this podcast. This is the first ever podcast episode I recorded, and you being here really makes a difference for me. It really means a lot. My goal as a human being is to just provide as much value as I can. And if you felt that this podcast episode was able to live up to that purpose, then I would really appreciate if you gave a 5-star rating on Spotify if you're listening on Spotify, or if you're on YouTube, I would really appreciate a like and a comment. Subscribe if you could, and yeah, just comment if you have anything else you want me to talk about. If you have any criticisms or things that I can do to improve my content, I would really appreciate that as well. And thank you for listening. I hope you gained lots of value from it. And if you're in high school, I hope you can learn from my mistakes and not make some of the mistakes and have the regrets that I did. Thank you so much. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.